Hey y'all, welcome back to another video. This video is going to be mostly me doing maintenance on my daily, taking this down to Taylor Dragon in a couple weeks, and I want to make sure it's in tip-top shape. She just hit about 100,000 miles, so she needs a bit of a freshen up. Got front struts, sway bar end links, tie rod ends, spark plugs, just filters, a whole bunch of different random things. I've already done an oil change and transmission fluid change, so those don't need done thankfully, but just a whole bunch of mechanical stuff that we're going to get done today. So let's go ahead and get it on jack stands and get into it. Now that the front of the car's all jacked up, we're going to go ahead and start taking apart the suspension. We got struts, sway bar end links, and tie rod ends to do. Hopefully that's all the tools I need. We'll see, but I'm not going to really make it a how-to because there's plenty of information on these cars. They're pretty common, but figured, you know, content ain't going to make itself, so gotta make content somehow. We also have spark plugs we got to do. Other than that, really not too bad. Filters, whatnot, like I said. So let's go ahead and jump into the time lapse and hopefully get this side done pretty quick. All right, so finally finished this side. Obviously, from the time lapse, not everything went according to plan. I don't like the design factory on the sway bar end links. Luckily, these Moog ones have an actual like place where you can put an open end on the back side, so that really helps. But struts in, tie rod ends in. And that's pretty much it for the passenger side. So we're gonna hop over to the driver's side here and do this side, and I'll catch you guys after that. Hopefully we can finish this up before the rain hits because it's not looking great today. Today's just not my day. So obviously the other side's fine. I got to this side and I go to pull out the old strut, and obviously I've disconnected from the hub, and it kind of, you know, falls back a little bit as it does. And it's back a little bit right now because the axle's disconnected. And you might be asking, why is the axle disconnected? Well, when it fell back, I didn't really think anything of it. I go to put this in and I go to push the hub back up, and it's only getting to about here rather than here where it's supposed to be. Big difference. And it was at like an angle. And the axle was not going back all the way as much as it should have. So I found out that, so it's in gear, so I can turn it, but it's a little difficult. But the whole axle is able to come out and rotate, and then I can clunk it back into place like that. because it's stupid. But I pull it out. I don't know if you can really see it on camera too much, but the boot moves as I'm rotating it. So I don't know if this axle's fucked or not, but I'm gonna replace it anyway. So I guess I'm not gonna get an alignment tomorrow because I can't drive this car. But regardless, even when it's pushed all the way back in as far as it'll go, it's still to that like not where it's supposed to be point. So I'm probably gonna have to replace the axle, which fun part about that is I'm gonna have to remove all the transmission fluid that I just replaced. So yay me. So this project's gonna be on hold for the time being, but hey, that means I get to drive the Lexus, so that's fun. Today's a good day, and it's a good day because we got the new axle in. The bad news, because there's always bad news, is now I have to drain all the transmission fluid that I just put in it that has probably maybe 200 miles on it, so I can pull out the axle. But at the end of the day, that should fix our issue. So I'm gonna get to that. I'm not gonna really show anything pulling out the drain plug or anything down in there, but because that's pretty self-explanatory. I would always recommend though removing the fill plug first, or at least cracking it loose to make sure you can actually put fluid back in it, because if you can't put it back in it, well then you're just screwed. So I'm gonna go do that and we'll see what goes from there. I'm wanting to open up the axle that's in it right now, see what's wrong with it, because I really don't know what goes on the inside of those things. I don't think it's just your normal U-joint, but it might be, who knows. But I'm gonna take that apart, see if I can find anything wrong with it, and if not, well then I don't know what I'm gonna do. But regardless, we have a new axle. Okay, so the new axle's in. Transmission's been filled up as well. The old axle is over here, and it's not great. I'll open up that here in a second. But one thing to note is that the very back of the axle, where you have to pry it out of the transmission, there's like maybe like, I don't know, 3 millimeters, a quarter inch or so, and the pry bar that I have is a little thick for that. So I would highly recommend using something a little bit thinner. This unfortunately bent too much. I was able to use the pry bar by jacking up the car a little bit more and then just applying upward force on the bottom of the pry bar. That way I could keep it in contact with the bottom of the axle to get it out. So that ended up working for me. Hopefully, if anybody does that, it's not that bad for you. But now that the new axle's in, I'm gonna try to put it into the hub and make sure everything lines up, and then we can go ahead and put the rest of this stuff in and then move to doing spark plugs. It always has to be something else, man. It can never just be easy. Not only do we have to do the axle, but I get all the way to putting the wheels on the car and the stud pulls out. So that's fun. So I had to change that real quick. Luckily I had an extra, and I still have one more in case it happens again, but I hate it when stuff like that happens. But we're gonna put it on the ground and then we're gonna break open that axle and see what's up with that. Ladies and gentlemen, torque your lug nuts. Also, I'd like to add, I don't care what anybody else says, extensions do not warrant increasing the torque on the torque wrench. Because of the formula in physics for torque, R cross F does not matter the distance from the fulcrum. So torque your lug nuts. I don't want to see wheels coming off on the highway into my car or anybody else's car. Save lives. Torque your lug nuts to spec, please. Well, I got the axle taken apart and I've never seen inside of it, and if you haven't either, well, then this is what it looks like. It's like baby diarrhea. It's kind of gross, but it's essentially a modified U-joint. I'm not sure if it's supposed to come apart like this, but that's how my axle has been, and that's why it's not in the car. So yeah, that's cool. So now that we finally have the monster truck tailgate fitment with the RT660s from the OZs that are supposed to be on the Pulsar over there, we're gonna move on to the spark plugs, filters, and the last little thing is, I think, rear wiper, which whatever. I'm not going to show that, but that's what I got. So let's do spark plugs. Doesn't look too bad. They're just right there. The cylinder 4 looks a little difficult way back in there, but shouldn't be too bad. So I'm going to get to that. I'm probably not going to show any of it because, you know, it's just spark plugs and it's typical stuff, but I'm going to go do that. So spark plugs are done, and I just wanted to give a quick little side-by-side from these filters. I don't think I've ever changed the cabin one. That's why it's freaking disgusting. But I changed the intake about, I don't know, 25,000 miles ago, which I know I probably should do it every other oil change, but yeah, it's also not great. So spark plugs weren't too bad. The actually looks pretty good. They were NGK, so definitely somebody else had swapped them out before I bought it, which is cool because they've probably been done within the last 50,000 miles. So about right for when I would do it. But regardless, put in these filters, do the rear wiper, and then that's about it. Well, everything I plan on doing on the Fit is done. So that's gonna be it for this video. The one thing I pretty much learned was that the Moog sway bar end links are nice because they actually have a proper attachment for an open end wrench rather than the OEM like Allen key at the end of the thing. I always hate that design. Moog makes pretty nice ones. Also, the sway bar end links are directional, well, side dependent, so there's left and right. I had them swapped. I swapped those back over when I pulled the wheels or put those wheels on. So that's it for this video though. If you like what you saw and want to see more, like, comment, subscribe. Thanks.